This video is sponsored by Wanderlust.
In the past 12 months, I have created a lot of YouTube videos. Between my own channel and the multiple different channels that I help to run, I have created over 100 videos in the past year. And through all the process of creating those videos, I picked up some tips and tricks along the way for how to edit the A-roll, which is the talking to camera, this portion of the video, faster and more efficiently. So today I'm gonna share with you 10 quick tips for speeding up your culling and editing of your A-roll. Hey there, my name's Sally Harrington. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and we're just gonna jump straight into it. So the first tip for editing faster is gonna be edit based off of waveforms. So the way I film my YouTube videos like this is one big long take where I'm slowly working my way through my outline, but this results in a lot of downtime in my audio file. So what I can do by using the waveforms is I can see very obviously the parts where I'm actually speaking to camera like this and the parts in between where I'm looking at my script, looking at my phone, whatever it may be, and I can easily cut out those in-between parts just by looking at the waveforms. You can also see the parts where you messed up because the waveforms will have like an irregular pattern, or maybe you stopped or you messed up, and you can see that in the audio waveform. So by studying these and using these for editing, you can really quickly breeze through all those non-important parts and jump straight to the parts that matter. Tip number 2 is going to be to utilize hotkeys. Hotkeys are one of the best ways to speed up your workflow. Basically, this is any keyboard shortcut that is going to be replacing a action that you do by clicking or going into menus. And by learning a bunch of these, especially the important ones, it can really speed up your workflow. I have an entire video about my favorite keyboard shortcuts that you can watch up here, but it's definitely worth it to take the time to learn what the different keyboard shortcuts are and how to use them efficiently. Tip number 3 is going to be to invest in a good mouse. I have recently been using the Logitech MX Master 3 and absolutely love it. This mouse is great because it has tons of programmable buttons. It has a vertical and horizontal scroll wheel, and it is ergonomic so that when you're editing for a long time, your wrist doesn't start to hurt. But by utilizing the buttons on the mouse and the keyboard shortcuts, you can edit really, really quickly and efficiently. But it's really important that you have the mouse with enough buttons on it to allow you to do that. In my keyboard shortcut video, I talk about how I utilize the different buttons on the mouse and the keyboard together to allow me to never have to take my hands off of either while I'm editing, which just helps you move that much faster through your footage. Tip number 4 is to always play your footage back at double time. There's really no point in sitting there listening to it back in real time play because you already know what it says if you're the one speaking, or there's really no advantage. You should be able to hear and understand everything that's happening, especially for this initial first cull through the footage. You just need to get through it and just hear if there are any mistakes or anything you need to cut out. So listening to it double time will cut your editing time in half. Tip number 5 is to wait to apply any color effects or color correction or LUTs or anything like that until after you've already done all of your culling. Sometimes when we get the footage into the computer, the first thing we want to do is throw the color grade on there and the LUT and see how it's going to look and all that stuff. But honestly, when you have all that stuff thrown on there, it makes it much, much harder for your computer to play the footage back smoothly and can slow your editing process down by having all those LUTs on there. So wait until the end to apply those. Or if you're just super eager and you want to put them on, you want to utilize the global FX button that you can toggle the global effects on and off, so that when you're actually playing back the footage and you're culling through it, you don't need to be having all those on there. It just makes it that much easier for a computer to play it back. So we've been outsourcing our wedding editing to Wanderlust for years, and it has by far been the best business decision we've ever made. For years, I fought the idea of outsourcing because every company I had found up until that point had either been too expensive to be realistic, or they just didn't meet the quality expectations that I had for my films. Until we found Wanderlust. Wanderlust was able to edit all of our wedding films at a price that made sense for our price point and at a quality that I was super, super happy with. And the process is super simple. You just choose the type of film you need edited, answer some specific questions about your project, and send over the footage. Everything is managed from a streamlined portal where you can chat with the Wanderlust team with any specific questions you might have, manage your revisions, and so on. Their turnaround times are quick and they have never missed a deadline. If you feel like your editing backlog is holding you back from living your life or growing your business, you need to give Wanderlust a try. Thank you again to Wanderlust for sponsoring today's video. If you want to save $50 on your first edit with Wanderlust, simply click on the link in the description below and you can try them out to see what it's all about. Tip number 6 is going to be to lower your playback resolution. You don't need to be playing it back at full resolution. Again, it's going to make it that much harder for your computer to process and play back. Could result in dropped frames and just slow playback and things like that. So lowering the resolution down to either a quarter or to an eighth if you're shooting in 4K will just help you move that much faster through the footage. And then you can always raise the resolution back up when you're doing more precise editing or when you're going back to color grading, things like that. In the settings, you can actually change it so that when you're paused, it will switch it it back to full resolution, but then when you're playing, it will default to that low resolution. So that way when you're paused, you can see what it actually is going to look like, but then when you're playing it back, you can play it back at a low resolution for better, smoother playback. Tip number 7 is going to be to use proxy files, or to at least know if, when, and why you need to use proxy files. A lot of the new cameras that have been coming out over the last year or so have been moving over to H.65 as their codec for shooting, which is a more efficient codec and can give you smaller file sizes. But because it is more compact, and because of the way that the processing is done in the camera, it's harder for your computer to unpack and to play back, which can result in really, really slow and laggy playback speeds, even on a really powerful machine. So it's gonna be really important that you understand what type of codec and file format your camera is shooting in, and just know that if it's gonna be really hard for your computer to play back, you need to build some time into your workflow for creating those proxies, because it'll ultimately save you time in the long run. Tip number 8 is what I call the triple clap trick. So when you're actually filming, you may do multiple takes of a certain line or a certain part of your script. Sometimes you'll mess up, or maybe you'll say one great, but you didn't really like the way you said it, so you'll say it again. You end up with multiple takes of certain parts of your script, but then other parts you may nail in the first try. And when you're editing, sometimes you don't want to waste your time editing through like the entire mediocre take, only to not forget that there is a better take after it. So what I like to do is I like to call it the triple clap. So I'll go little triple clap like that after the best take, so that when I'm editing, I always know, okay, wherever the triple claps are, those are the takes I'm gonna keep, and everything else can be thrown out, so you don't have to waste your time cutting and editing through takes that you ultimately aren't gonna keep. And this actually kind of ties into tip number 9, which is to edit as quickly after you film as possible, especially if you're the one actually filming, or if you're in the room with the person who is, because this will help you to remember, oh, they messed up here, oh, we did this take 3 times and the middle one wasn't very good, or blah, 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 blah. If you edit soon after you film, it's all fresh in your mind and you can remember a lot of those things, and it'll help you move that much quicker through the footage. But if you wait a couple weeks or days after you've shot the footage, then you don't really remember exactly like which takes were good, which takes were bad. It's just not as fresh in your brain. So if you have the ability to, edit as soon after you film as possible. And then tip number 10 is one that I'm not personally great at, but it's going to be to eliminate distractions. So if that means turning on do not disturb mode on your computer and on your phone, keeping your internet turned off, if you get really, really distracted, it can really take you out of your edit. And again, you start to forget like where you are in the edit, what you've already done, and it can really slow you down. So if you find yourself having a really hard time getting through the A-roll and things like that, try and block out some time, eliminate any distractions, and just crank through it. The faster you can get through it, then you can get onto the fun stuff, which is, adding in all the graphics and the B-roll and all the music and all the other things that you want to get to. But you've just got to be able to power through, eliminate distractions, and get through the A-roll. All right, so there you go. 10 tips to speed up your editing for your A-roll for your YouTube videos. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel down below. If you have any questions or other things related to editing or YouTube videos or anything like that, please leave a comment with those questions down below. I'd love to make a video about it in the future. Until then, thank you all so much for watching. This has been Tyler from the Harringtons. I'll see you next time. Bye.